Welcome back, I'm the Watch Nerd. On this video, we are going to talk about the most useful complications in a watch. I will going to discuss what is a complication and my personal choices in using them and their usefulness throughout, because there's plenty of them in watches. Before I do get into it, I want to keep announcing my Chanel chain giveaway. I'm going to be giving out this chain as soon as we hit 1,000 subscribers. So if you want to be entered, there's the 4 steps in the description below. So let's straight away start with what is a complication. A complication is anything added into a watch that is not just the time. So the hour and minute hand is the only thing that is time only. Pretty much, I think every Rolex in the collection now is a it has a complication. Even my Oyster Perpetual has a seconds complication. So now that we got that covered out of the way, what are the most useful complications? Well, right away, I think number one is the chronograph. Chronograph is probably any chronograph, right? It is so useful. Racing, of course, is what they're famous for, but going to the moon with the Omega Speedmaster, and it's so historically important to keep track of things, and the usefulness of the complication is you cannot deny it. If you have to time something for 2 minutes, even nowadays with the iPhone, you have to, if it's in your pocket, you have to take it out, you have to go into the app, you have to unlock your phone. There's a lot of steps involved. With the chronograph, if you're wearing it on your wrist, you click one button like that. Of course, it has to be wound, but if you're wearing it, especially automatic chronographs, you won't have a problem. So you click the button. So it actually, this is probably one of the only reasons I should say, that wristwatches still are superior than iPhones, because you can do that so instantaneously. But I think that's one of the only complications and uses that is left, that the watch has sort of a slight advantage. So the chronograph is number one. This might be a little, some people might say the date indicator, but if you're working in an office job a lot, the date and day, so it depends on the usefulness, but I think a date complication definitely comes into play, especially a day date. Most famously, the Rolex day date in precious metal. A lot of them, people call it prezzies or whatever. It's a day date with a presidential brand, but any day date, right? It doesn't have to be gold. There's offerings from Seiko, Orient, anything from Japan. There's a lot, but even Swiss-made watches. There's a really cool watch. I'll put in some footage of it, I might even do a review of this watch. Maybe in my next video, I'll do a quick review, maybe a 5-minute thing on this, because this is a weird watch. It's not Rolex. Sorry, I almost called it Rolex, but it's very similar to a day date for a lot cheaper. But this one's in precious metals, but you can get them in any, arrangement, any stainless or whatever you need for the day date. And then of course in quartz, that's a different story. It's a lot cheaper. So after the day and the date, they're very notable. The complications sort of start getting a little more, nuisance-y. Annual calendars are great. They are, but you have to keep your watch wound. Perpetual calendars, that's even more necessary. And really with a perpetual calendar, if you need to time something like that, all it does is adjust. If it's a perpetual, we'll know if it's a leap year, month, all that type of stuff. But, how hard is it, especially on a quick set watch, to just move it one, thing, especially, with the iPhone, right? You pretty much, any phone, you have a perpetual calendar inside it, really. So that one's, in my opinion, yes, it's a cool complication. I'm not doubting it, but the usefulness, it's a little debatable, I'm just gonna say. But what are other unique complications? I absolutely love the moon phase. That's one of my favorite. And even the Rolex offering of the moon phase, I think a lot of people underrate it. It is very expensive at retail though. And it's also precious metal, but it's very cool. That's a really cool watch. Other ones, there are plenty, right? There's power reserve indicators. The list goes on forever. On the top of my head, I'll list power reserve. Oh, you also have chiming. That is a great complication. And actually, that was the minute repeater, I should say, not chiming. It's called the minute repeater, where you actually click something and it dings every hour and minute and all the way down to the seconds, actually. I had a Patek Philippe pocket watch on this channel, and it had the complication, and I didn't show it off, and I really regret that. That would have been very cool, because of course Patek Philippe is one of the kings in that area. So that's a great one. Alarm, some mechanical watches have alarm. Tudor has an alarm. So there's just really neat ones in there. Rotating bezels are not a complication, in the watch. It's inside the movement, so that's technically a complication. I would love to leave it here just because I don't want to make it too long, and I also want to know your opinions. What is useful in a complication? I would love to know. And what are your... So that's it. If you do want the Chanel chain giveaway, of course, there's the 4 steps in the description below. Thank you, and I will catch you in the next one. Have a fantastic day.